All right, hi everybody. Welcome to the second part of your Advanced Math Fall Semester Final Study Guide. So this one says, find the unit rate and use it to solve each of the following proportional problems. So as you guys know, unit rate is just how many of this for every one of that. And it's the key to proportional relationships. It's basically the multiplier in a proportional relationship. So in y equals kx, it's k, right? It's how many outputs for every one input. It's what you'd multiply the inputs by to get the outputs. And so in this case, it says here, a car travels 325.02 miles in 3 hours. At that speed, how far will the car travel in 8 hours? Well, the first thing you have to figure out is, at that speed, how fast is it going per hour, right? What's the unit rate? So what you're really doing here is you're saying 325.02 over 3. I'm going to write this a little bit smaller. It's looking pretty big there. Let me make that a little smaller. Zoom in, see if I can make it a little easier for me to write. Anyways, so you're getting a 325.02. You're dividing it by 3, basically, right? Because you want to get the unit rate. So you want to know how much it would be out of 1, right? So divide top and bottom by 3, and you're going to get what we call the unit rate. And that'll be how many miles for 1 hour, miles per hour. So you're going to get this process here. So 325.02 divided by 3. And 3 goes into the 25, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 2 0 times with 2 left over, 3 goes into 25 8 times, that's 24 with 1 left over, 3 goes into 10 3 times, and don't forget to bring your decimal up, and that's mean 9 with 1 left over, and 3 goes into 12 4 times. So 325.02 divided by 3 is going to be 108.34, and I just use shorthand division right here. So you're going to get 108.34 miles for every 1 hour. So that's the speed it's traveling at, 108.34 miles per hour, mph. All right. That's not the question it's asking. What's asking is, at that speed, how far will the car travel in 8 hours? Okay, fair enough. So if this is the speed it's traveling at every 1 hour, and you want it not in 1 hour but 8 hours, then you're just going to multiply this speed, which is for 1 hour, this distance I can travel 1 hour, by 8, right? So what you're going to have here is a situation where you're multiplying 108.34 by 8. So 108.34 times 8. And that is going to be whatever that is. Let's figure out what it is. So 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 3 is 27. 8 times 8 is 64, plus 2 is 66. 8 times 0 is 8, plus 6 is 6, and 8 times 1 is 8. So it looks like it's going to be 866.72 miles. So if this is the speed it's traveling miles per hour, and then you multiply it by the number of hours that you're going to be traveling, you're going to end up with the number of miles you traveled. Okay. So the answer is 866.72, and then don't forget the word miles. Is how far it will travel. Box your answer, and that's how you do the problem. Okay. For the next one, it says it takes an airplane 7 hours and 40 minutes to complete a flight. If the average speed of the plane was 240 miles per hour, then how far did it travel? Well, we know it's traveling at 240 miles per hour. And it says it took 40 minutes to complete the flight. Actually, 7 hours and 40 minutes. So the first thing you want to figure out, since this is miles per hour and our unit rate's in hours, you want to make sure that our time is in hours as well. So 7 hours is in hours, but then the 40 minutes is not in hours, right? So we know that an hour is 60 minutes. So this is the same as 7 and 40 out of 60, which is the same as 7 and 2/3. Okay, so we know that it was traveling for 7 and 2/3 hours at what speed? And it was traveling at speed of 240 miles per hour. So then to figure out the distance that it covered, right, you just take the speed it's traveling at, miles per hour, and then times it by the amount of time it was traveling for, and you'd end up with the miles, how far it went. So you're just going to do 7 and 2/3 times 240. So that's 21 plus 2, which is going to be 23. So you're looking at 23 thirds. Let me see if I can make that look a little neater. 23 thirds. And you're multiplying that by 240 over 1. And we're going to, of course, cancel out the 3 and the 240, and you're going to get 1 and 80. And then that's going to be multiplied across top and bottom, the result. So how far did it travel? Well, it traveled 23 times 80. So what is 23 times 80? That's the same as 23 times 8 with a 0 on the end. 20 times 8 is 160. 3 times 8 is 24. So it's going to be 160 plus 24, which is 184. So it's going to be 184 with a 0 on the end. So 1,840 miles. So that's your answer, 1,840 miles. And that's that. And for both of these problems, it's really the proportional equation. And you can think of it as y equals kx, right, where k is the rate. And the input is going to be, since it's miles per hour, right, the input is going to be the hours, and the output's going to be the miles. So if I want to describe what equation I'm using or what I'm solving here, it would say that the k is the rate, the unit rate, and that the x value is the input, which is going to be the hours, and the y value is the output, which is going to be miles. And basically, for both those first two problems, I'm just using this equation to solve, right? I'm saying that if the rate is 240 miles per hour, 240, and the number of hours is 7.6 repeating, or 7 2/3, then if I multiply the unit rate, speed, times the number of hours it was traveling at that speed, I'll get the total distance in miles. All right, so the next problem over here is, if it costs $33.45 for 5 pounds of almonds, then how much does it cost for each pound of almonds? So once again, you're thinking about the proportions you're setting up here. This one's one where you are saying that you've got this value of dollars, 33.45, and that's for 5 pounds, not for 1 pound, but for 5 pounds. So LBS if you want. So this is $33.45 for 5 pounds, but you don't want the value of 5 pounds, you want the value of 1 pound. So you're going to divide top and bottom by 5, right? And that's going to give you your unit rate, or the value or the cost of 1 pound of almonds. So you're just going to take 33.45 and divide it by 5. And when you do that, you get 33.45, dividing it by 5. You're dividing by a whole value, so just bring it up where it belongs, and then see what happens. And when you do that, you get 5 goes into 33 how many times? That's 6. That's 30 with 3 left over. 5 into 34 goes 6. That's going to be 30 with 4 left over. And 5 goes into 45 9 times. So what that's telling you is it's $6.69 per pound. So it's $6.69 per pound. And that is the unit price for that problem, right? How much does it cost for each pound? $6.69. All right, there we go. I want to just check that one mathematically, make sure I don't make a silly mistake, because I am tired. 33.45 divided by 5. Yep, that's correct. All right, let's look at the next section. For the next section, we are going to solve some equations. You guys remember the most important rule about solving equations is that whatever you do to one side, do to the other. So just simplify the left, simplify the right. Once you simplify the sides, make sure you get all your variables to one side, all your numbers to the other side, find out the value of the variable. In this case, on the left-hand side, you're going to simplify it. Right-hand side, you're going to simplify it. The right-hand side is already simplified, negative 43. The left-hand side, there's some like terms that you can combine. So you can see that you can combine 3x's and negative 10x's. That becomes negative 7x's. So you got negative 7x plus 6 is now equal to negative 43. You want to get the x's by themselves. So how do you get rid of this plus 6? You're supposed to add negative 6 to both sides, or take away 6 from both sides. You get a 0 pair on the left, and you end up with negative 7x on its own. And on the right-hand side, you get negative 43 plus negative 6, which is negative 49. Now you want to get the value of x. So how do you undo times by negative 7? You do divide by negative 7, not to one side, but to both sides. Remember, whatever you do to one side, make sure you do to the other. And you get 1x is now equal to the answer, which happens to be, in this case, positive 7. Once you have the answer and you finished it, you're going to take your answer and plug it back in to see if you get a true statement. So I'm just going to take the value of 7 for x, plug it back in. What's 3 times 7? 21. Let me just do that quickly and easily here. That's 21 plus 6. And then negative 10 times 7 is negative 70. And that together should equal to negative 43. Let's see if it does. So 21 plus 6 is going to be 27. 27 plus negative 70, negative wins by how much? And if you take away 27 from 70, you're going to get 50 take away 7, which is 43. So yeah, it works perfectly. Good job. checked our work. For this next problem, same exact process. Simplify the left, simplify the right. Make sure whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So we're going to go through and do that. So on the left-hand side, it should be the same value as the right-hand side. And whatever we do to the left, we're going to do to the right. Let's distribute first. So we can see that we've got negative 5 times 3x plus 9. Don't forget to distribute the negative through the parentheses. This is negative 5 times 3x, which is negative 15x. Negative 5 times positive 9, which is going to be negative 45. And then once you have that, you can combine your like terms. So in this case, I see that I've got x's that can be combined. I've got negative 15x's and positive 7x's. How many x's is that? That's negative 8x's. I'm taking away 45 from that, and I'm getting that equal to 18. I want to get the x's by themselves, so I want to get rid of this minus 45. How do I get rid of minus 45? You're going to add 45 to both sides. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you always do to the other. This becomes a zero pair. You end up with negative 8x is, in fact, equal to whatever 18 plus 45 is. That's really 9 times 2, and this is 9 times 5. So it's really 9 times 7, which is going to be 63. So you're looking at 63 there. And then you're going to ask yourself, well, I want to get not the value of negative 8x's, but I want the value of just x. So how do I undo times by negative 8? In this case, you're going to divide by negative 8. That will give you the value of 1x, which is what you want. So you're going to get x is equal to this. And this is just really 8 into 63. How many times 8 go into 63? Well, 8 times what? 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 7 is 56. 8 times 8 is 64. So it looks like it's be negative 7, which is 56. And then how many more? 7. It's going to be negative 7 and 7/8. So that would be your final answer for this one. This is a really sloppy way of doing the boxing. I'm going to do it with the shape. Better. It looks nicer. Okay, cool. So this is the answer. This is how you do it. If you wanted to plug in and check, you could plug in and check to make sure that you make any boo-boos. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm sure you guys know how to plug in and evaluate, and I don't really have space to do it here. I'll probably do it on separate paper, and I don't want to take your time making this video an extra 5 minutes longer. So in this case over here on number 21, we're going to solve it the same way. So we're going to say that the value on the left should always match the value on the right. Let me do that back. There we go. So we got the value on the left should be equal to the value on the right. I'm going to simplify the left, simplify the right, then compare. So on the left-hand side, I notice that I can do 11x minus 9x, which is 2x. This is 2x minus 9. And then here, x plus 71 is just going to stay the same. I want to get all the x's to one side, all the numbers to the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minus x from both sides. If I'm going to bring the x's to the left, I'll bring the numbers the other way. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. This becomes a zero pair. Let me make that look a little prettier. This becomes a zero pair. This becomes a zero pair. And what you're left with here is just 2x minus 1x, which is x, which is awesome. And then 71 plus 9, which is 80. So in this case, the answer is really easy. X is just 80. And you're done. Now, once you have the answer, you're going to plug in and check it. And since that one's so quick, I can plug this one and check. So 11 times 80 is going to be 88 with a 0 on the end, or 880. So you're going to get 880 here. And then you're going to take away 9, and then you're going to take away 9 times 80, which is going to be 720, right? And that should be the same as or equal to 80 plus 71, right? Let's see if that works. So in this case, you're going to have 880 take away 720. Well, 880 take away 720 is 880 take away 700, which is going to be 180. And then 180 take away 20, which is going to be 160. And then 160 take away 9, which is going to be 151. So this whole thing has a value of 151. And the right-hand side, 80 plus 71, is also 151. So therefore, I know I didn't make a boo-boo, and it's all perfect. So once again, when you have variables on both sides, get all your variables to one side. And then once you have them on one side, get all your numbers the other way. Make sure the variables are isolated on one side without the numbers. And then how do you undo times by whatever the coefficient is? Divide by whatever that coefficient is to find the value of the variable. Okay. All right, let's do this one here. So this next one says, basically, is the table proportional? If it is proportional, then write the y equals kx for the relationship. So really, in a proportional relationship, basically what you're checking to see is the ratio of y over x always the same, right? So k is supposed to be equal to y over x, and that should always be the same. So 7 over 11, is that the same as 28 over 44? Is that the same as 35 over 55? Okay, well, 11 times 4 is 44, and 7 times 4 is 28, so that's working. 11 times 5 is 55, and 7 times 5 is 35, so that's working. So yes, these are all the same ratios. So this is definitely a yes. And then what is the equation? Well, the y over x is 7 over 11, so this would be y equals 7/11 times x, and that is your equation for that proportional relationship. For the second one here, you're going to ask yourself, is the k constant, right? Is the ratio of y over x always the same? If it is, it's proportional. And in this case, we can look at it and say that 1.5 over 5, is that the same as basically 3.6 all over 12? Is that the same as 5.4 all over 18? Now, this looks to me like 1.5 over 5 basically looks like if you take the 5 times 3, you get 15, right? And then 1 to the left. So that looks like it's 5 times 0.3. So it looks like you're multiplying by 0.3 here. 12 times 0.3 is that 3.6. Well, 10 times 0.3 would be 3, and 2 times 0.3 is 0.6. So yeah, that works. And then 18 times 0.3 would be, yeah, that looks like it works too, because 18 times 3 is 54. 1 to the left would be 5.4. So it looks to me like if you look at this, right, the ratio is 1.5 over 5, which is the same as if you multiply top and bottom by 2, it would be the same as 3/10, right? So that k is always going to be equal to 3/10. So this is going to be a yes for sure, and it's y equals 3/10 of x, or 3/10 x, okay? And that's how you do it. I'm going to erase the extra stuff you don't need. You guys get it, and let's move on. All right. For the next problem over here, you're going to investigate k to see if it's constant, because if your multiplier is constant, you have a proportional relationship. So this would be k is equal to the ratio of y over x. Is that always the same? In this case, is 12 over 5 the same as 14 over 6, the same as 16 over same as 16 over 7? Sorry. I'm sorry, guys. And no, the answer is it's not the same. So what we're noticing here is that 12 over 5 goes into 12 twice with 2 left over. So that's literally a value of 2 and 2/5, right? And 6 goes into 14 twice, which is 12 with 2 left over. But this time it's what? 2 and 2/6, right? And then over here, you got 7 goes into 16 twice, which is 2, but 2 left over, and then that's going to be 2/7, right? So 2/5 isn't the same as 2/6, isn't the same as 2/7. So none of these are the same. So this is definitely a no. The ratio of y over x is not always the same. So no equation for this one. It's not proportional. Yeah. Now, if you're asking, is this predictable? When we get to advanced math, you guys will realize next semester that it is predictable, because the change in the y direction is +2 every time the change in the x is +1. So that means there is a multiplier of 2. 5 times 2 is 10. What would you add to 10 to get 12? 2. So it looks like the equation will be y equals 2x plus 2. So 6 times 2 is 12, plus 2 is 14. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 2 is 16. So it is a linear function. It's a straight line. So this would be what we call a linear non-proportional function. So we'll do that more next year. But linear non-proportional. And it's definitely not proportional, but it is a straight line. So it's just not a straight line that goes through the origin. Okay. Let's take a look at the next set of problems here. Says solve for the missing value. So in this case, you have lots of choices about how you want to set this problem up. I'm going to show you guys how to set it up in 2 ways. So the first one is direct translation. So y equals kx, basically, right? So the y equals kx for this one would be with y is equal to, right? Because what is the unknown? Is equals 26%, 0.26, and then of means multiply and then times 3. So you can literally just solve this by just multiplying 0.26 times 3. Done. If you want to set up with proportion, the way you do it is you do is over of is equal to percent over 100. And this is just a part to whole relationship. So in this case, what is 26% of 3? We don't know the is. That's an unknown. We do know that the 26% is the percent, and percents are always out of 100. And we know that the is out of 3, right? So some number out of 3 is equal to 26 out of 100. And then you could solve this proportion any way you want to solve it. In this case, I think the easier one to solve is 0.26 times 3. So 3 times 0.2 is going to be 0.6, and 3 times 0.06 is 0.18. This way, 0.6 plus 0.18, or 0.78. So it would make sense to me that the answer is 0.78. So you'd say 0.78 is 26% of 3. And that is what I would write as my answer. Okay. And so if you had to put it into the test, you just put in 0.78, basically. Okay. For this one over here, you can set up two ways, like we talked about. You can either do a direct translation. So this time we know the output, we know the value that is the is value. It says 14, so 14 equals is what percent? We don't know the percent, so you can think of that as like basically k over 100, or the whole value is really k, but you can just think of it as k over 100 if you want. And then of means times, and then 60, right? So basically, k over 100 times 60 equals 14, right? And then solve that equation. The other way you could set this up is you could say is over of equals the percent over 100. Part to whole equals part to whole. And we could say that we know the is 14. We know the of is 60. And we just don't know the percentage, right? We don't know that percentage is a missing value. I don't care what variable you put for it. You put x, y, z, doesn't matter. I just put x. And that's always out of 100 because percents are out of 100. Now, if I wanted to on this problem, I could look to maybe simplify this a little bit, and you could get 7 over 30. But that doesn't really see there's no relationships here, right? So none of it's going to make it any real easier than it would be otherwise. So it doesn't really matter which one you solve on this one. I don't think either one's particularly an easy method to solve. So I'm just going to solve it with this proportion here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that 60 over x is going to be equal to 1,400, basically do the cross product. So that means that I have 14 times 100 is equal to 60 times x. And then I'm divide both sides by 60. Okay, which basically gives me, if I cancel out the 0, 140 over 6, right? So I'm going to do 140 divided by 6. 6 goes into 14 twice, that's 12 with 2 left over. 6 goes into 20 3 times, that's 18 with 2 left over. So it's going to be 23 and 2 6, or 23 and 2 out of 6. You could do it as a decimal, but I just wanted to make it easy for myself as a fraction. So this is 23 and 2 6, which is the same as 23 and 1/3. So 23 and 1/3%. And as I know, I have memorized already that 23 and 1/3 is repeating. So I could say that this is the same as saying 14 is 23.3 repeating percent of 60. Now, whenever you get an answer like this, I think it makes sense to double check it and see if your answer is reasonable. So you guys hopefully are pretty comfortable with the idea of how to use some benchmark percent values. So if I said 23.3 repeating percent, I'm just going to roughly estimate that at, let's just say 24. Okay. So 24% would be 10%, 10%, and then 4%, right? So 4 times 1%. So 10% would be 6, right? 20% would be double that, so 12. And then 4% would be 60 cents times 4, which is $2.40. So looking at 12 plus $2.40, we're looking at $14.40. So if you round this up to 24%, it'll be 14.4. And so since it's obviously I rounded up to get a little bit higher over here, it's very reasonable to say that this is a correct answer. So yeah, that's fine. All right, so that's that one. Let's do the next one. This one says 118 is 25% of what number? So the direct translation way for this would be to do 118 is equals 25%, 0.25. Of means multiply, and then times whatever number is unknown. So it's really going to be 118 equals 0.25x. Now, when you're solving that equation, that one's pretty easy. You're going to divide by 0.25 both sides, which basically means you're going to multiply by 4, because dividing by 0.25 same as dividing by 1/4, same as multiplying by 4. So ultimately, the answer is going to be 118 times 4, right? But if I want to set a proportion for this, it'd be is over of equals the percent over 100. And let me just kind of erase this and make it look a little prettier. In this case, I would set up as 118 over an unknown of, we don't know what that number's out of, is equal to 25%, and 20% are always out of 100. And like we talked about, I could simplify that to 1/4, and then I could realize that x is just going to be equal to, so 1x, right, is equal to 118 times 4. So I could just multiply 118 times 4 to get the answer here. So that's going to be 4 times 100, which is 400, 4 times 10, which is 40, and 4 times 8, which is 32. And if I add all that together, I'm going to get my answer, which happens to be 472. So the correct answer here would be that 118 is 25% of 472. And when I'm checking my answer for reasonableness, I know how to do 25% with a benchmark. Just cut it in half again. Half of 472 is 200 plus 36, so 236. Half of 236 is going to be 118, so I know it works. Yeah, it's perfect. So that is the correct answer. And that's what you'd input, right? 472. And then last but not least, we have some application of percent problems here, right? So let's see if we can do some discounts and markups and things like that. So in this problem here, you've got a video game that normally costs $55 on sale for 25% off. What is the price of the game on sale? So this is the amount you're going to pay on sale. So it's asking for the price of the game on sale. Okay. And so ultimately what we're going to do there is figure out what portion are we still going to pay, right? So if you're getting 25% off the price, the original price is 100%. You're taking off 25% of that price. What portion of the price are you still paying? 75% of the price, right? So that means that ultimately, if you take the 55 and you times it by 75%, you're going to get the price that you're going to pay on sale, right? That's the sale price. In other words, the retail price, if you want to see the full equation here, I'll write it out for you so you guys can see. So if we think about the retail price as the normal price, right? The sale price is the discounted price. The equation would be that 100% of the retail price minus 25% of the retail price is going to be equal to 75% of the retail price, and that's going to be your sale price, right? So ultimately, what we're looking at here, if I wrote it out algebraically, is this. You'd say that let R equal the retail price, let S equal the sale price, and so then you'd say that the retail price, or sorry, I should say, we're looking for the sale price. Sale price is equal to the retail price minus the 25% of the retail price. Hence, the sale price is equal to 0.75 times the retail price. And since we know the retail price is 55, hence we know the sale price is 0.75 times that 55. And that's kind of where that idea came from that I was showing you a second ago. Anyways, so once you have this, you're just going to multiply 0.75 times the $55. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is just to find the value of the 25% and remove it. Right? Either way, you're going to get the same answer. So I actually find it easier in this sense to do the value of the 25% removed from the 55. So let's just do that. So 55 divided in half is going to be what? 22 and a half? No, 27 and a half, right? So 25 is half of 50, and then half of 5 is 2.5. So we 27 and a half cut in half. And then half of the 27 and a half would be the quarter, right? That you're getting the discount you're getting. So 27 and a half cut in half. Well, 20 cut in half is 10, 7 cut in half is 3.5, and then half cut in half is 0.25. So really you're looking at, looks like 10 plus 3.75, so 13.75. So it looks like you're getting $13.70 off the price. I thought that would be easier to do in my head. Actually, it wasn't that much easier to do in my head. Let's just do the multiplication. So I'm going to do this on a calculator because honestly, I'm pretty tired and I can't be bothered to write it out. And you guys know how to multiply decimals, right? So let's do 0.75 times 55. And you're going to get your answer, 41.25. And the one I did in my head was take away 13.375. And so let's see if that actually works, plus 13.375. No, I did something wrong in my head. That's exactly why I didn't want to do it in my head, because I figured I would make a mistake. So yeah, 55 times the 0.25. It was see, I'm tired. So it wasn't 13.375. It was 13.75. The numbers were getting a bit fuzzy in my head. That's why I thought I might make a mistake that way. Anyways, ultimately, the answer is exactly what we talked about, which was 75% of the 55. So 0.75 times 55. And there's your 41.25. So it says, what is the price of the game on sale? And you'd say that the price of the game is $41.25 or $41.25. Okay. Yeah. Okay, for the next one over here, it says you're eating at a nice restaurant and the price of the meal comes out to $230. You want to leave a 18% tip. How much should you leave? So basically, this is a real simple one. It's literally just asking you, what is 18% of 230. Okay, that's all it's asking. And since this is a direct translation, easy one, this is just 0.18 and times 230. In other words, you could use benchmarks, you can use multiplication. There's lots of ways to get this value, but it's really just what is 18% of 230. So you're just going to multiply together 230 times 18%, or 230 times 0.18, and you're going to get your answer of 41.4. So you're going to leave a $41.40 tip. So this is y equals 41.4. So how much tip should you leave? $41.40 tip. That is a lot of tip, by the way. It feels like a lot, but let's just make sure I didn't make any silly mistake. 10% of 230 will be 23. 20% of 230 then we double that, which is 46. So yeah, 18% is going to be close to that. Yeah, that's reasonable. It's a lot of tip. That's the price of paying for expensive service, right? Nice restaurants are very expensive. So you pay an extra $40 in tip. 230 times 0.8. You are right. Wow. Okay, that's a lot of money that you have to leave that waiter. Good to be a waitress at one of those fancy places, huh? All right, and then this one over here, you're a real estate agent selling a $765,000 house. You earn 4% commission, which is, by the way, a very high percent. Usually it's 2% or 1%. But let's say you get an amazing 4% commission because you're like the seller and you're the agent for the seller, the agent for the buyer. You're doing both things. You're just getting a great commission. So basically, that means for making the sale, you're going to get 4% of that value. Can you imagine? So that's pretty cool. So $765,000. $765,000, and you're going to just basically get 4 times 1%. 1% just to the left. So you guys can see that this value as a benchmark would be 7,650, and it's not 1%, right? It's going to be 4%. So this is 1%. You don't want 1%, right? You want 4%. So that means that we're going to have to take this value and times it by 4 to get 4%, right? So 7,650 times 4 will give you that 4% mark, right? So you can do that in any way you want. I'm just going to do it real quickly because I think you guys know how to multiply 7,650 times 4. And you're going to get $30,600. $30,600. So based off of that, you guys can see that basically this one is a whopping commission. You get $30,600 for making that sale commission. That's a lot of commission for that. That means basically you could sell 2 or 3 homes and be pretty much, good for the year and have a pretty good salary for the whole year. Not bad. Pretty good. In terms of other ways you could have set this problem up, I did it with the benchmarks, right? I found out what 1% was, and then I multiplied it by 4 to get 4% of the whole. You could have done this in other ways as well. You could have thought of this as just one of those questions. So you'd say, what is 4% of 765,000? And if you did it that way, or you thought of it that way, you could have set it up as y equals kx, and you realize what a y equals 765,000 times 0.04. Or you could have alternatively set up as is if f equals percent over 100, which would be a situation where you'd have x over 765,000 is equal to 4 out of 100 and solve that proportion. So either way, you would have gotten the right answer. So anyways, the answer is $30,600 commission. Let me just double check that I didn't make a boo-boo. So that would be 765,000 times 0.04. And yep, that's right. Okay, cool. So that's how you do this problems, guys.